Well, hello, my name is Samuel Miller, and I'm a postdoctoral research scholar at North Carolina State University. In this talk, I'll be presenting our most up-to-date work focused on using microvascular tumor models to evaluate the microembolic characteristics of Y-90 radioembolization. These are our disclosures. While there are many clinical studies investigating the safety and efficacy of radioembolization for HCC, many attributes of the Y-90 deposition are still difficult to observe in vivo. So these include how microspheres are distributed within the tissue, at what artery level implantation occurs, and the key question of our most recent work is how does the administration method affect the distribution and depth of penetration? So to answer these questions, we've developed a novel multi-scale benchtop tumor model that not only captures features of the hepatic vascular anatomy, but it also matches published pressures and flow rates and allows for direct microscopic observation of the implanted microspheres. So this model was designed to represent the 3.5 centimeter tumor in a 1400 cc liver. We used a flow partition to calculate the target tumor flow rate, assuming a proper hepatic arterial flow of 2.7 cc's per second and a tumor to normal ratio of 8. So this yielded a target tumor flow rate of 0.3 cc's per second. To achieve this flow, the tumor was modeled as a branching network of fluidic channels, whose dimensions were selected so that we could prescribe the pressures and flow rates at each arterial level. The resulting model branches from a single 1 millimeter caliber inlet down to over 6,000 18 micron outlet arterioles. And to our knowledge, this is the only fluidic model that really spans the scale all the way down to the precapillary level where we can actually observe these microembolics in action. This tumor model was then fed by a hepatic vascular system dynamically perfused with a water glycerin mixture at a pressure of 140/60. And we used this mixture so that we could approximate the viscosity of whole blood at around 3.5 centipoise. The vascular system shown on the right terminates in 16 outlet arteries, with the outlet flow immediately adjacent to the tumor being restricted to 2.5 milliliters per minute, which gives us our TNR of 8. And here you can see that the tumor model actually consists of 4 microvascular trees that are connected together, and we can see a zoomed in view of the 18 micron outlet arterioles. Now I know this doesn't really look like a tumor, but if you imagine you took all the blood vessels out of a lesion and laid them out very carefully on a flat table, you might get something that looks like something what we have here. For our studies, we used 20 to 30 micron Y-89 glass microspheres that were administered through a 0.027 inch Cook cantata that was placed within a 2 millimeter caliber artery, feeding the tumor and a portion of the normal liver tissue. Microsphere delivery was compared between 2 delivery systems, a proprietary dual syringe system shown on the left, and a commercially available bolus delivery system that is equivalent to the TheraSphere delivery device. For both devices, a total of approximately 100 milligrams of microspheres was delivered. For the dual syringe system, it used 2 syringes actuated in parallel to deliver a continuous concentration of about 50 milligrams per milliliter throughout the administration. For this case, or for this device, 2 cases were evaluated. A continuous administration of a 2 cc infusion and intermittent administration of 2 1 cc infusions with a 3-minute pause in between. For the bolus delivery system, a single 3 cc bolus case was tested in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications. So we saw that both delivery systems showed similar maximum penetration of about 180 microns into the outlet arterioles shown here. The plot on the left shows the particle count, with a total on-target deposition of about 70 milligrams. Across the board, so no significant differences were seen between target and non-target deposition for any case. So while the administration method had little effect on the maximum penetration, the overall distal distribution showed noteworthy differences. So the plot on the left shows the particle count for radial distance in all 4 of the trees. So this here shows how we measure the radial distance in each of these 4 trees. The yellow area represents the intermittent dual syringe case, orange the continuous dual syringe case, and blue the bolus delivery case. The biggest difference we see here is that for the dual syringe cases, we saw a greater distal filling of the most distal vessels. So here the highlighted region of the distribution corresponds with the precapillary vessels highlighted on the tumor model to the right. And in this region, we see a dramatically higher number of particles for the dual syringe cases as compared to the bolus delivery case in blue. So this distribution, or this difference in distributions, is really exemplified by these micrographs on the right, showing greater distal deposition for the intermittent dual syringe case compared to the bolus delivery case. So to understand why these differences exist, we can quantify the total number of particles in the microvascular trees. The model shown on the right is for a single bolus delivery case with highlighted trees corresponding to the bar chart categories on the left. This reveals that while the same quantity of particles was delivered through the catheter for each case, the dual syringe cases showed significantly higher quantities of particles inside of the microvascular trees highlighted here. So upon further investigation, we saw that there was significant proximal accumulation that you can see in this region here for the bolus delivery case, which is something that we didn't really see for the dual syringe cases. Additionally, there was accumulation of particles proximal to the most distal vessels for the bolus delivery case. So in contrast, for both dual syringe cases, we saw a good distal filling of the microvasculature, which is shown here, with little to no proximal accumulations. So there are two potential explanations for these differences. One, the higher infusion rate for the bolus delivery case may create a back pressure that temporarily reduces tumor perfusion while microspheres are being delivered. And two, the particle-laden flow during peak bolus concentration can have unintended consequences, such as preferential concentration of microspheres within the flow and changes to the arterial flow characteristics on the whole. In addition to the distal distribution, the lateral distribution was also affected. So on average, we saw significantly higher uniformity in the total particle counts for both dual syringe cases. So here, one indicates complete uniformity. So that means that each of the 4 microvascular trees receive the same number of microspheres. The image on the right depicts a tumor model following a single bolus administration, showing visually the disparity between particle depositions for the microvascular trees. So this type of observation may suggest that the dual syringe system can provide more even coverage of Y-90 in the tumor. So in conclusion, we developed a novel benchtop model to simulate HCC tumors down to the arterial level. We then used this model to study the differences in glass Y-89 deposition between dual syringe and bolus delivery systems, revealing that the dual syringe system had greater distal deposition and showed more uniform implantation than the bolus delivery system. And I think the high-level takeaway here is that the administration method used likely does matter, and that we should be investigating ways that we can improve upon the delivery systems that are currently in use. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to my talk, and now I'd like to open the floor to any questions or comments.
That was a great talk. I think I caught at the beginning that you set it up, the model up so that there would be an 8-to-1 differential flow to the tumor versus normal tissue.
Yeah.
If I got that correct, I have a couple of follow-up questions. One is,
yeah,
why did you decide on an 8-to-1 tumor to normal? And also, did you investigate, was your delivery point only to the tumor in your model, or was it also to normal tissue as well?
Yeah, so this is a good question. So we chose 8-to-1. What we found in publication is that the tumor to normal ratio kind of varied quite a bit. It could be as low as 4, or it could be as high as a 12 or around 10. So we chose 8 as a number that was well within that range. We thought was representative of what you might actually see. The catheter was placed here, it's shown right where the end of this kind of yellow line, or sorry, green line is shown. So when we embolize, we're actually, or when we deliver particles, we're actually delivering them to the tumor, and then also these sort of side vessels that have the 8-to-1 reduction in flow. So it kind of represents vessels that you couldn't get distally enough to select past.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question for you.
Sure.
I was wondering, well, 2 actually, but they're related. One is for the flow, was this mimicking the pulsatile flow from the cardiac output?
Yes, yeah. So right here shows the pressure that we achieved in the proper hepatic artery. So it's meant to attempt to model the pulsatile pressure that you would see.
Okay, and then the other question was, as far as the bolus delivery, did you reassess that after some period of time to mimic what we often see in vivo when we're doing these in either animal models or in patients, where you deliver some degree of embolic material and then you do an angiogram and you see a certain level of decrease in the perfusion, whether it, we've reached stasis or not. But then if you check 5 minutes later, then you may find that it's all sort of pushed forward and now much more distal. Did you assess anything like that in this kind of model?
So we just tested the 3cc infusion. So that essentially delivered almost entirely, this 100 milligram like committed dose, if you will. And then afterwards, we waited and measured the flow rates after a long period of time. We waited at least 5 minutes and up to 10. Essentially, we waited till we no longer saw a change in the flow rates that were measured. So we actually have the capability here to measure the outlet flow rates of the tumor model separately from the outlet flow rates of the hepatic vascular system. And we can compare them and look at how they're changing with time. So once they reach a steady state, then we'll take those readings there. So when so basically we deliver this, we wait and we see, and then after about 5 minutes, that's when we take our endpoint. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that, we're not just injecting the particles and then immediately looking at where they're located. We're giving them time to move forward as far as they can.
Great talk, Sam. So my only concern actually here is in terms of distal arteries. So we know all these tumors, go under neoangiogenesis, and then they're not normal vessels. So and I'm not really sure how distal vessels would reflect those basically those neo vessels pattern and also their blood flow pattern. And as we know, normally the residual disease normally left at the distal and periphery of the tumor. I don't know if you guys take any step to predict that or kind of.
No. Really, what we tried to do is we tried to match flow rates and pressures as much as we could, and to get down to the size where we could observe the embolization while getting those pressures and flow rates. So this doesn't really mimic, I think, the actual anatomy that you'd see, for these hypervascular tumors. But I think that's definitely an opportunity for model revision. So creating something that's maybe a little bit closer to what you would actually see for these tumors.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, do we have any questions in the chat? I don't have that window right in front of me, but just wanted to make sure. Anybody else have any questions on the panel? All right, if not, thank you very much.
Thank you.